I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Yeah, Johnny Nash. Yeah, it's going to be a bright, sunny day, especially after you hear this podcast, because this guy is talking my game right now, because I'm always interested, especially as I get older. I'm more and more interested. You know, most people, I'm 62. People start caring about crepey skin. Oh, I'm losing my muscle. My hair's falling out. Yeah, there's a few things we could do about all of that, but I'm more interested in my eyes more than anything else. And when I heard about this guy, I did not hesitate. I tripped over myself to write an email back to him to say, hey, you need to come on the show because my eyes are going bad. And this guy is going to teach us all about it today and tell us how we can fix, hopefully, all of the problems, although maybe not all of them. We'll find out. Dr. Bryce Appelbaum. Yeah. Yeah. They love you, Bryce, and you didn't do anything yet.
Vinny, I love this. Thank you for the intro and the walk-up song. It couldn't be more perfect, right?
Yeah, I like to do walk-up music. Well, look, I had 2 walk-up songs for you. You want to hear the other one?
Yeah, let's do it. What's the other one?
I was like struggling, but, you know, I love me some Johnny Nash. Most people say, wait, wasn't he a white country singer? No. That was Johnny Cash. Yeah, we had Johnny Cash and we had Johnny Nash. He was a soprano. The man had a golden voice. Just an unbelievable thing. I love music, Bryce. I really do. But we're not talking about ears and audio today, unless you got something you want to say on that.
I think we're going to hit ears a little bit for people who are avoiding reading and relying on audio rather than visual because their eyes are not working together as a team and they can't digest information in books with their eyes like they would like them to. But mostly eyes today.
You know, I'm going to be honest. I mentioned I'm 62 years old. If you would have talked to me when I was 45, I would have said, I don't know why anyone I'd walk in a restaurant. My friends started doing the thing where they would start holding the menu back a little bit and finding the candle on the table.
Yep.
And this kind of thing. And I was like, what's wrong with these people?
Their arms aren't long enough. They're holding it far away. Yep.
It just and then all of a sudden, I was like, my eyesight was still bang on perfect. And I was like, I'm never going to lose this, right? Cut to, by the time I was 46, it was almost like overnight. All of a sudden, I'm like, I can kind of see the menu. Maybe they need to add the light in this restaurant. It all happens in restaurants, right? Because that's kind of the first place. Because when you're at home reading, you have the proper light on and everything, and you're reading a book or whatever. But that's when I started noticing. And I only needed the 0.75s, and they worked perfectly. And then before I knew it, 0.75 wasn't any good. I needed the 1.0s. And then and I had a friend, he's still a friend. I'm going to name drop him right here. Howie Mandel, the famous comedian. Howie is several years older than me. He was the one that was holding the thing back. And when I got to the 1.25 glasses, he was like, oh, you'll be at 2 before long. And I was like, nah. And then 1.50 and then 1.75 and then 2.2. It just kept going up. It just kept going. And then, and then this is the part that scared me, Bryce. I couldn't see because I shoot competitive skeet. I'm a target guy. I shoot skeet. I shoot sporting clays. I shoot trap. These are moving targets. Now, all of a sudden, I'm having trouble from a distance. And that's when I went and said, okay, we need to go get the bifocals, the whole thing. I need to go get my eyes done. Is there anything I can do to reverse that? Is this normal? What's going on? Why will I be blind in 5 minutes?
First of all, don't drop the B word. We don't like to talk about blind. Vinny, there's so much to unpack here. And what you're describing is what 99.9% of the world goes through, where you have a birthday every year, Your arms aren't long enough. You're holding things farther away. And anatomically, what happens is the inside muscles of our eyes become more rigid and less flexible as we age. But just like any muscle in our body, if we stop using them, we lose voluntary control. And what happens is you grab those readers, that becomes your new normal. You adapt to those. You then need something stronger to maintain that same clarity. We go down this vicious cycle. But just like any muscle in our body, we can exercise and strengthen the system. And from a vision perspective, first of all, if we think about eyesight and vision as separate things, eyesight being the ability to see, that's letters on a letter chart, street signs, that's eyesight. That's what glasses is. Vision, though, is brain, and vision problems are brain problems. It's how our eyes move and focus and converge and track and process information, and how we make sense of the world around us and then direct the appropriate action. Up close becoming an issue, and then for some people far away becoming an issue. Those are functional vision problems. That's the eye-brain connection not being as stable and strong as it used to be. And I really say, just because you're getting older, it doesn't mean we need to succumb to giving up. If you tweak your knee a little bit, you don't automatically throw yourself into a wheelchair, right? No, you figure out what's going on, what the root cause is. You work your way back to functionality. The same goes for your eyes. Instead of reaching for the drugstore readers the first chance you can get, you can train your focusing system to hold clarity for 5 seconds at a time at a close distance, then 6 seconds, then 10 seconds. And if it's done right, specific eye exercises can act like push-ups for your eyes. And after a little practice, you get to see a difference. My wife's 42 years old. She blew out the candles on her 42nd birthday, and literally, like overnight, she could no longer read the instructions on the medicine bottle. And luckily, she knew a functional eye guy with a secret recipe, and with a specific sequence of vision performance training exercises, she reversed her age-related changes, can now read tiny print up close like a 25-year-old. And just like she exercises the other muscles of her body, she now exercises the inside muscles of her eyes, her focusing system, to keep her HD eyesight. So when we know better, we can do better with so many aspects of health, but definitely when it comes to vision.
I've noticed that there are certain times, because of my age, I got to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, right? And I notice that when I come out of a deep sleep and I walk through a dark bedroom, I flip on the light in the bathroom. At that moment, I see a lot clearer than I do. I don't have my glasses. They're next to the bed. Why is it? And I'll go, my God, I'm seeing the toilet does not look, off balance to me. Why am I seeing this perfectly? And why is it a few minutes after I wake up in the morning, it goes back to now I can't see again? What's going on?
So that means your aim is better at night too than when you go to the bathroom, right? Because you're seeing better.
I wouldn't say that. No, actually, I'm pretty good aim guy. I don't want to get into it. I'm a pretty good aim guy though. Again, I'm a target guy.
Yeah.
I take pride in hitting the target. Right.
So I work with snipers, Olympic skeet shooters. I mean, all different sports imaginable. You can train your brain. And when there's light differences, when there's stress from our environment, how we function, how we use our eyes together changes. Mm-hmm. And, when you think about what we're doing right now, staring at a screen, and that presenting visual stress that very often we don't have the foundation or the tools in place to support, the response is to either adapt or to avoid. And the vast majority of vision problems are maladaptations. They're bad habits. So when your brain is functioning differently, when your brain is under stress versus when it's not, vision is going to function differently. And for everybody under stress, our pupils widen and we get this tunnel vision effect, which is why people driving at night with less visual stimuli often have a much harder time. Or when driving over bridges, you start to notice everything off in the side and the periphery, and it makes you even more central or locked in. So depending on the profile, lighting influences things dramatically, especially junk lighting. A lot of people in malls, airports, grocery stores, where these LED lights, the fluorescent lights that are flickering, it sends you into this fight or flight response. And then literally visual function drastically changes. So just like we can support our different systems in different ways to be more successful, we can teach our eyes, brain, and body to work more efficiently together so that vision can guide and lead like it's supposed to. But so often we just go down the path of kind of feeding the problem rather than looking for the solution that can be found with pretty much any functional vision problem.
Yeah, I've had people, not once or twice, but it's a common notion when they come to my house. They'll say, I always feel relaxed when I come over. It's because we don't have any hard lights anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We're big. I mean, I had my whole office when I bought this place. I ripped out. They have fluorescent lighting in my office.
Yep.
Everything was ripped out. We have these really soft bulbs all the way around, and it gives you this feeling of calm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But, and by the way, I wish my phone was here, but it's somewhere else. I started doing a screen time diet. I don't spend much time on a computer unless I'm doing podcasts. So right now there's a computer screen in front of me. I have one right behind you and one after that. So I'm going to spend maybe 4 hours looking at a screen today. That's it. Right. I don't play games on a computer. I check emails and I do podcasts and that's it. The phone. Do you know what the national average is on the cell phones?
For 8 to 10-year-olds or for adults? Because I got both stats.
All right. You give me both stats that you have and I'll give the stats that I have.
Okay. So for the average 8 to 10-year-old in the US, 6 hours a day on screens. So hopefully that's not phones, but that's, way too much. And that's according to, many different sites. But for adults, 7 hours and 4 minutes is what I've found is the average amount of time for screen engagement. When you look at your phone, though, especially with iPhones, when they tell you how much you're on, I mean, it's way higher than that for most people.
Yeah, the average is just over 7 hours. And, which means if you do the quick math, that's over 100 hours. That's over 100 days per year. Right.
That's average, which means plenty of people are way more than that.
That's average. So when I heard that number, about a year, maybe 2 years ago. And I looked at my average.
Yep.
Because I purport that, hey, since I work on the phone, I'm in the social media business. I looked at my phone at the time and I was like at an hour and 40 something minutes. I can't remember exactly. And then I checked maybe 6 or 8 months later and I crept up to, maybe 2.25 hours on average per week. Every Sunday it starts over, folks, if you want to know how it works. And it shows you your daily average. Now, included into my averages, I have a rowing machine in my office. And I use an app. So when I'm on the rowing machine, I hook the phone up so it'll send it right over to my app in my computer, right? So my numbers go up because of the app being on.
Sure.
Right. So it'll bring the average way up. So I use that as an excuse. I use it as an excuse that I work on the phone. Well, I checked about 3 weeks ago or a month. I was north of 3 hours. I was careening towards that 7 hours and 4 minutes that they talk about. Mm-hmm. And go on. You have a question?
No, I was saying, will you do something for me? Squeeze your hands like this. Make 2 fists. Squeeze them as hard as you can. Don't let go of the pressure. After a few seconds, your hands start to hurt, right? If you were to let go, though, and come back and let go and come back and kind of do that for an extended period of time, you could do that for much longer.
Right.
That same strain is what's happening with your focusing system. What's the inside muscles of the eyes behind your pupils. When you're on a screen, they're under tension over time. If you're working out, tension over time is a good thing, but you don't want that with your visual system because those muscles aren't designed to work that hard for that long. And they're contracting without a break, which is leading to headaches, eye strain, myopia, nearsightedness. I mean, all these preventable issues because of the new whirlwind where screen time is the new pandemic.
Well, the thing I noticed, to finish my thing, I was over 3 hours. I brought it down the next week, I brought it down to an hour and 7. The week after that, I brought it into the 40-something minute range. Last week, my average screen time was 22 minutes. That's
for you.
including being on the Concept 2 machine for, sometimes 30, sometimes 40, sometimes an hour, right? Now, I didn't do any hour. Last week I was up to 30 something minutes. I went up a little because I did more time on the Concept 2. I've gotten that screen time down to nothing. And I got to tell you, it opens up not just, I don't know what it's doing for my eyes yet, but it opens up everything else because you see, you're looking at the eyes. I'm an exercise physiologist, right? My hammer is different. My nails look different, right? We're both hammers looking for nails. And when I go to the mall, to the shopping center to go shop, get meat, I see people walking across the parking lot with the gooseneck, with the phone. When I go to the gym, I see kids where I can't even do the movement. Their chin is on their chest and they're looking at a phone and their bodies are becoming deformed.
100%.
I'm looking at kids used to, when I was a kid, I've become that guy. I've become old man Vinnie. I'm Gran Torino now. But when I was a kid, kids stood up straight. Their necks were straight up. There was a song, Like a Rock. Bob Seger, Like a Rock. Find a rock today. The song today would be Like a Goo of Putty. And I don't even know if you can make that song sound good. I know Chevy ain't using it in a commercial, right? But that's where we are. And now you're telling me, hey, Vin, it's not just the chin on the chest. It's not just a gooseneck walking across the parking lot. It's the eyes.
And it's the eyes often contributing to the tech neck where you're leaning forward and you're pulling the whole world in. I mean, you're hitting the nail right on the head. It's not just kids. It's everybody walking around with these little machines, often inches from their face, blasting this high energy light at us that our bodies don't know what to do with. I mean, our eyes and brains were not designed to take on that much strain for that much time. And if you think back to, our ancestors in caves, like our visual system was intended to guide movement outside in natural light and to scan the horizon for dinner and danger and explore through nature. But that same system is now clashing against modern day demands that have us on screens all day long, reading before we're visually ready, not taking place in face-to-face interaction, and not navigating our three-dimensional world like we're supposed to. And it's literally creating generations of people with functional vision problems. But I think the biggest key, the biggest takeaway is not like, damn you screens, even though that's the world we're in. It's more, we can do specific work. We can exercise our eye-brain connection to be able to thrive in this digital world, to be able to withstand that 7 hours and 4 minutes a day without having symptoms. But for most people, it requires doing the type of work like you work out your body, going to the gym. I mean, we should have eye day along with leg day and with chest day, because there's so much that can be done to create a more robust system to handle all of this stress.
So what are you saying? Don't skip eye day?
Eye day should be every day.
All right. So look, I'm a big believer, and I'm going to tell you why. Again, exercise physiologist, doctors will tell you sarcopenia is coming in to get you. There's no way to beat it. And I've been proving that wrong. Yeah, sarcopenia is coming in, but you can retard it to such an effect. It moves so slowly that you can make it into your 70s or perhaps your mid 80s without falling off of a cliff.
Yep.
If you notice, physically, some people fall off of a cliff at 65. Some people fall off at 70 or 75. But the people who exercise and work out, they don't fall off of that cliff until right before they die, right? And I always say that you could be at a dinner party or something. You could be at some kind of party, and you will look, and there will be the statuesque woman, right? And she's walking straight, and the whole thing is, she's 70 plus. If you walk up to her, I guarantee you she's either doing Pilates. If you go up to her, do you dance? Yeah, I dance regularly. Do you, is it ballroom? Yeah, how did you know? because you're moving the way a human being is supposed to. You're still moving the way you did when you were young. Those muscles are still there. You're still erect. Yeah, of course we lose musculature. We lose this and that. But these people are different. It's the same with older men and women that do Pilates or even yoga, any kind of movement. And I said even yoga because yoga is basically just stretching with just a few poses in there. So you can only imagine what you could do if you go to a gym and lift heavy things. How do I do it with my eyes? Give me a prescription here.
Let's do it. So many people think that dementia comes as we age and we lose cognitive capacity. Vision declines as we age and we need to grab the strongest glasses possible. Although both of those things often happen, that's not normal. That's just common. So I mean, we have an infinite number of eye exercises we could do. And I would look at each one as an individual exercise like you would do, at the gym. So like, let's talk about curls. You do curls alone, you're going to get stronger biceps. You're not going to be in better shape. You're just going to have stronger biceps. But curls for your focusing system. Let's right now do a near far focus. So take one hand, cover up one of your eyes with your hand. Take your other hand, and we can use our finger here. Start it as with the arm all the way straight.
Okay.
Look at your pointer finger.
Wait, hang on. I need to reposition my mic.
Yeah,
okay.
Get the mic out of the way.
One eye covered.
Stick your hand all the way out. Look at your pointer finger. And turn it so you can see like the fingerprint, the pad of your finger. And I'm glad you don't have your middle finger up. Thank you. Slowly bring that finger towards you, looking at the pad. And bring it as close as you can until it gets a little blurry, and then stop and make it clear. And think about stimulating your focusing system, looking hard. You'll notice.
What do you mean stop and make it clear?
So as this comes closer, there'll come a point where it gets a little blurry.
All right, let me do it again. It's coming in. All right, it's a little blurry.
All right, pause right there. Now try looking at it hard. Try looking really focally, centrally, kind of try and lock in clarity as much as you can. And then after 5 seconds, look across the room as far away as you can for 5 seconds. But don't move the eye away. Just look past your finger. Yeah,
but there's a wall and
even still. So this is a gross.
I have lights and everything right here.
You can pretend the wall's not even there. You're going a gross constriction at the finger, stimulating the muscle. And then gross relaxation, look all the way across the room through the wall and relax the muscle. Then back at the finger and stimulate it, and then back in the wall and relax. So you're pulling in, holding for 5, relaxing, going for 5. Pulling in, going for 5, relaxing, going for 5. Even moving your finger a millimeter closer after a week. You do that 5 weeks in a row, that's 5 millimeters closer. You're literally learning how to use this system, which is just one piece of the puzzle, but you do it same amount of time right eye as you do left eye. You'll notice where you can hold your finger is going to be likely at a different place for each eye, which means under 2 eye conditions, when you're on a screen, you're likely focusing your eyes at different planes because it's too hard to use them together. There's this binocular rivalry. Your brain's then going to pick the eye that's easier because our brains always take the path of least resistance. You do the same amount of time right eye and left eye. You'll notice that with time, it'll be at a more similar symmetrical distance, but you'll be able to get it closer and closer and closer. Now, any brain at any age can be optimized and enhanced in terms of visual skills and abilities. If you're already in a plus 250, let's say, reader, at a minimum, you can make it so that with specific eye exercises, the right sequence of learning, and we can talk about what that looks like, you can make it so that number, that 250, doesn't increase. And in many cases, with enough work, you can do it so you can actually prefer a weaker prescription. And in my office, when you come in for a boot camp, or we see a lot of people from out of state, out of country for these intensive programs, we can improve drastically in a week's time with a ton of work relying on augmented reality, virtual reality, eye tracking computers, also low tech stuff, but arranging the conditions to use the eyes to rewire the software of the brain to change how we're using vision. So if you catch this before it starts to spiral out of control, you can prevent things from getting worse. And if you catch it already when you're in the deep end, you can make it so that things are more stable. But I have patients in their 60s, 70s, even a few in their 80s who don't wear reading glasses, but they're doing work every day. And for them, it's important. For others, we're like, well, if this is inevitable, it's going to get worse eventually. If I don't do anything, I'm going to just give up. Then that's not you. But something like this near far focus activity, you do this every time you're on the toilet. You're guaranteeing yourself, depending on how quickly you can get on and off the toilet, several minutes a day of establishing a rapport with that focusing system. And that's just one thing we can do. We have specific lenses, kind of like dumbbell weight, where we can start with a low weight, a low power, and you can do a lens that's a plus 50 and then a minus 50 and look at something up close, and it's literally turning on focus, turning on focus, turning on, turning off. Do it enough time to build flexibility, then that plus 50 and minus 50 goes to plus minus 75, and then 1, and then 125, and you're literally learning how to make sense of near space more easily and developing stamina as well as flexibility there. And our ability for our eyes to stay focused deeply influences our ability for our mind to stay focused.
What caused it to go off in the first place? Like my story, 45, I was solid. 46, all of a sudden is going, right? What causes the weakness?
Well, so what it sounds like you have is something called presbyopia, which when you Google it or go to the eye doctor, they can tell you those are age-related changes just based off of the anatomy of the eyes changing. And a lot of that is from terrible nutrition, toxins in our environment. Certain things can help speed that process up. But again, our ancestors, our cavemen weren't wearing reading glasses, and they were still drawing on walls and, manipulating things with their hands. They didn't live as long as us. But really the issue is the environment and stress from our environment and not having the tools in place to meet those demands. And if you think about what we said initially, where you're talking about people holding things farther and farther away, it's almost a defense mechanism because it's too hard to lock into that space. And so the screens, the environment, the near visual stress, and having a sedentary lifestyle inside and junk lighting allows for all of these problems to come to a head sooner in life and in a more pronounced way.
Yeah, but I hate to be butter. I'm gonna be a butter here.
Yeah, but me.
I'm a guy at the time I was still doing ultra cycling. I was on a bike better part of 17,000 miles a year. That's more than most people put on a car.
Yep.
On a bicycle. So aerobically, I was very fit, working out like a crazy man. I'm not an indoor guy. My diet is probably as spot on as you can get. No junk food, no packaged food ever. I've been this kind of crazy health nut my whole life. Mm-hmm. And still with me, right? It goes off, mm-hmm. which is, and I remember reading an article once. This was long before we had the internet. So it was back in the 90s. And, I was this fitness trainer in LA, right? And a lot of LA started taking, it was human growth hormones at the time. Now they're on to TRT, but they were on HRT back then. HGH, human growth. And as you know, very dangerous type of hormone. But, Stallone didn't care. He had Rambo to do, right? And that's what was going on. So when people like Rambo are doing it, then Hollywood goes, hey, maybe I need that too. Well, I want to say it was Outside Magazine or one of those. One of the writers decided to do a 6-week program of HGH. And he was doing it through a doctor, as most of these people were doing in Beverly Hills, through a doctor. And the doctor was giving him B12 shots along with HGH shots every day, or I don't know, as often as they take these sort of things. I've never taken a steroid. I don't know how it works. But he's taking B12 shots on top of HGH. And the one thing he noticed, he noticed 2 or 3 things in the 6-week period. But the one thing he noticed was that his eyesight got better. Is that possible when you're taking a human growth hormone that it'll pull that back into focus or start to strengthen those muscles?
So I wouldn't say that I have ever come across HGH doing that to the muscles, but I can tell you providing the brain high doses of what it needs to heal if there is systemic inflammation, or decreasing neuro or systemic inflammation if it is there, absolutely can influence eyesight and allow eyesight to improve. And for so many people who've had head injuries, or have chronic inflammatory disease, or been exposed to mold or toxins or Lyme disease, wherever it is, vision gets compromised because as our dominant sensory system, and by there being more areas of our brain dedicated to processing vision than all of the other senses combined, you can't really influence brain function without influencing visual function. So in those scenarios, there probably was underlying problems in place that allowed for there to be less than optimal clarity. And so by shifting brain function, you shifted visual function. But there's, in many countries, the 40s that happens in our country, where up close becomes an issue, is sometimes in the 50s, 60s, or even non-existent, because
Really?
there isn't the visual stress of life there that there is here. I mean, myopia, which is the medical term for nearsightedness. When we landed on the moon in 1969, a fourth of America was nearsighted. Right now, it's 43%, and it is climbing. And it's estimated by 2050 that 50% of the world will be nearsighted. And that's because of three main risk factors: too much near work in the dark, prolonged screen time, and not enough time outdoors. And we now have studies that say 90 minutes a day outside, you have less likely of a chance of developing nearsightedness.
Really?
And that's, for a couple reasons. One, you're getting natural light from the sun, and we know that UV light does wonders for health and setting circadian rhythms and lots of other aspects of just hormonal regulation. But you're also engaging with three-dimensional space. Vinny, when we were kids, we were outside playing ball all the time, climbing trees, laying on the grass, looking at the clouds and visualizing. And our parents would have to drag us inside when it was dark out or dinner time, right? Now it's the complete opposite. We're dragging our kids outside, away from all of the tech and the visual stress. And no wonder there's all of these problems now with social development, emotional development, cognitive development, but of course now visual development as well. So vision has become the new sexy thing that people are talking about, because we're noticing post-pandemic how all of these problems have become exacerbated by the fact that digital devices have taken over every aspect of our life.
Yeah, it does seem to be in the last 5 minutes when, and it's I really hate to bring up the subject because it becomes political, and I don't want it. I don't do politics on this show. But there's all of these kids going out and doing mass shootings, right? And I've had psychologists and psychiatrists on the show, and of course, as soon as there's a mass shooting, it's a horrible thing, and we all sit there and go, "My God, what just happened?" And the first thing we do is we go after AR-15s, whether an AR-15 was used or not, right? The media picked up on one term, AR-15. And they just start yelling that over and over and over again. Okay, great. But is it the gun that's the problem, or is it the person that's choosing to find the gun and do because it's not like you're just sitting there one Wednesday afternoon and you go, you know what? I think I'm going to go over to the local college campus or the local Walmart and start blowing people away, right? These things are happening. They're not happening in a vacuum, right? These people are seriously disturbed. Yet we never seem to go after the root cause. And that's, and yeah, maybe we need less guns. And maybe, I don't know. Good luck. Good luck trying to get 300 million guns out of the hands of Americans. It's, that ship has sailed. But can we fix the people pulling the trigger? Any thoughts?
This is going to sound hyperbolic, but, in the medical world, we're so quick to slap labels on behaviors: ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, autism spectrum disorders. They're so quick to be diagnosed when, in fact, so many of these labels have the exact same symptoms and behaviors of hidden functional vision problems that are treatable. social awareness, eye contact problems, how we take in the world. At a minimum, these are heavily influenced by our vision, and they can be enhanced and improved where they don't impact interpersonal connection. And, you know, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, they're incomplete diagnoses unless you're ruling out or addressing vision first. So not to say that kids who are doing this have vision problems, but I think if we were to actually look into this, we would see that their lifestyle and their environment at a minimum has influenced their overall behavior. And, you know, the kids who are squirmy in the classroom and trouble copying off the blackboard, and they're answering their pants when they're trying to read. And when you actually lift up the hood and see, they can't track their eyes, they can't focus their eyes, they've got poor depth perception, they've got visual developmental delays impacting their ability to achieve. They then get a negative association with reading and learning. They then get targeted by the school, and then we go down this rabbit hole in this terrible cycle. So, you know, this is the type of thing that vision is our dominant sensory learning system. It should be what's guiding and leading. When it's interfering, it can create confusion in your brain, chaos in your life, and then that can manifest in some terrible ways for a lot of people.
Yeah, it seems like we do go after these diagnoses pretty quickly, right? All of a sudden you have nothing, and then they diagnose you with something. And then, a lot of kids, they'll use that as the excuse for everything. I'm pretty sure that when I was a kid, I would have been labeled with all of it, right? I had ants in my pants, as you put it. I was like, I couldn't stop moving. Mm. I think that's how I got into athletics. It was like, oh, wait, I can do this. And it doesn't help that we've cut recess time down to nothing.
Yep.
And in some cases, 0. We've cut PE classes. I've been saying this since the beginning of this podcast. Put me in charge of the presidential physical fitness test again. It's gone away. It's completely gone away. I would bring it back and make it mandatory. You want that perfect 4.0 so you could get into an Ivy League school? Great. You're not going to get it unless you take the test, right? And you have to score. So, it doesn't have to be a perfect score. You don't have to be a great athlete. But if you don't have that presidential physical fitness test on your resume every year, unless you have a serious medical condition, you ain't getting a 4.0. I would put, the problem is we don't put parameters on any of this stuff. When I was a kid, we did it. Kennedy said we need to do this. We're falling behind China and the Russians, and we need to take this test, and we need to get physical again. And we did it. And then all of a sudden, parents started writing notes for kids. My sweetheart doesn't have to take PE, right? It's the biggest disservice we're doing. We're not getting these kids outside and getting them to run around.
And movement breaks. I mean, in a classroom, you're asking a child to sit in a classroom, often with a tablet for most of the day, not get any of the energy out, not take visual breaks, not actually get outside in natural light. And then we're wondering why there's all these labels and why there's all these problems. I mean, when you know what to look for in terms of hidden functional vision problems impacting somebody's ability to achieve at their potential, these problems are right in front of your face. But when you don't know what to look for, it's kind of like, all right, well, you can see the small letters on the far away letter chart. Well, what about the visual foundation necessary for reading and for learning and for interpersonal communication? It's a different skill set that when I was in school and when all doctors are in school, I mean, we're trained on a reactive model to intervene when there's disease, to look at structure. There's almost no training on function and development in a proactive model. And vision development can be rerouted. No kid is born with the ability to track, focus, converge, use their eyes together. No one's even born with depth perception. It all comes through our life experiences. So you learn well and not learn as well as it could be, and that's when intervention is needed. But you get a kid asking a kid to read in kindergarten when they're not visually ready, then you're literally setting that child up for failure, not just that year or in school, but for life, because now they're having to rely on their ears to take in the information from the classroom. They're having to rely on touch and other sensory systems. And that's the person who's touching everything with their hands because they can't touch the world with their visual system.
Yeah, I remember before we left Southern California, my wife and I were out to dinner one night. And we couldn't help but notice the table next to us because they had 3 kids. I even wrote about it in my book. I called it, the blue face kids, because they all have this hue of blue on their face coming up from the screen. And so 2 of the kids, one's maybe 6 or 7, the other one is 8, 10-year-old. They both have tablets in their hand. And the reason we were looking over is this raucous and rambunctious toddler, maybe 2 years old. And they had the toddler banging away on his or her own screen. And we're looking at this, and the parents looked over and became braggadocious and said, "Can you believe our 2-year-old knows how to use the tablet?"
Oh, man.
And I looked at my wife and quietly said, "Honey, as a society, we're completely fucked. We're done." When parents are bragging about a toddler using a computer, we're done as a society, right? And this was back in 2017, 2018, right? It's crazy.
It's crazy. Childhood is so impressionable. And if you're stuck in a 2D world with all this brightness, contrast, high energy light blasting your eyes and your brain all day, you're depriving yourself the opportunity to engage in a 3-dimensional world. Vision is intended to guide movement, to navigate our 3-dimensional environment. And, like you said, with movement, that helps you de-stress your system, gets you into this optic flow. It helps, understand your sense of self and space, and that de-stresses the system. That's crazy because no 2-year-old has the visual system to support screen time. And if you were to take that family now, 8 years later, I can guarantee you that kid is wearing glasses full time because they're nearsighted. And I can guarantee you that they don't have interpersonal communication skills like they should, because they're not at dinner talking to their parents, looking around and engaging in conversation and life in areas that matter.
Yeah, and we see that, I've seen videos of people taking a phone away from their kid, and the kid just completely freaking out as if someone just got murdered in front of them. And it's just very sad. Right?
And then that child has trouble with transitions in other areas of life, and they can't self-regulate and self-monitor. And then they're developing sensory integration problems. And, it's crazy when you know better, you can do better. I mean, I have 3 kids. All 3 of my kids showed signs of problems. And if they weren't born to myself knowing what to do in terms of putting them in vision training and occupational therapy, they would be messes right now. All 3 are really active into ball sports, into movement, because they've now recognized they can access so much more of their brain by accessing so much more of their body.
I want to switch gears a little bit because I'm interested in you helping me become a better skeet shooter. But before we do that, folks, Villa Capelli Olive Oil is the longest running sponsor of this show. Villa Capelli. I believe in this company. In the United States, I say it every time, you're able to cut olive oil up to 40% and still call it extra virgin 100%. You can put any kind of lie on the front of the package, and you don't have to mention it on the back. The FDA allows this to go on. Oil can be cut with seed oils up to 40%. Don't let that happen to you. Get Villa Capelli. Get a 3-liter tin. Don't mess around. You want to save 10%? Put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. Promo code Vinnie, 10% each and every time from Villa Capelli. I use it here. We also use it over at my vitamin company, purevitaminclub.com. We mix our vitamin D with it. That's how much I believe in this product. Use Villa Capelli olive oil. Let them know we sent you. VINNIE, no wimpy Y. You'll save 10% every single time. We're talking to Dr. Bryce Appelbaum, and we're learning about eye health. And at the very end, I know you have a program that people can purchase, and we'll mention that. But I always save that until the end so that people can remember to write it down. So get your pens ready, folks, because we have something to say pretty exciting for you. I started off shooting sporting clays just casually 40 years ago because, you know, I'm a bird hunter and, you know, I wanted to keep my skills up in the off season. And so I just casually did that. Whenever there was a sporting clay range near me, I would show up and do a couple of rounds and, you know, that kind of deal. At some point in LA, I got into trap shooting, you know, started buying trap guns, which is a whole different sport. And I was always a one-eye shooter. I'm right hand, I'm left eye dominant. So I would close my left eye so that I wouldn't see two barrels doing this in front of me, right? And when I got my scores to anywhere from 90, 92 out of 100, so 92% every time, that's, you know, I just got stuck there. Whether I was doing, you know, trap right on the line or handicap trap, I couldn't do better than 92. Every now and then I'd get a 96, right? Never would hit 100 straight. And everyone I spoke to said, that's never going to happen until you open your other eye. You need to open both eyes. The reason being is it gives you a depth perception. Now, some people become great. Some people went to the Olympics with one eye closed, right? One eye shooters have become Olympic champions. I've known guys to go 800 straight on skeet, one eye shooters. But in general, they'll tell you unless both eyes are open, you can't get that depth perception. You're losing something. That's why you're going to always drop 8%. As soon as I open, the way I opened both eyes, and you I know you know this trick, you put a little piece of tape or something, not right in front of your eye, but to the side, right? And what happens is it makes you, with both eyes open, you just see one barrel. You don't see the two barrels going back and forth. So I put the piece of tape. They said, keep it there, do it for a couple of, they meaning other trap shooters. Keep it there for another week or two, and you'll notice. Well, of course, my scores went down to 80%, 82%, 83%. I was getting used to it. Within a month, I was back up to 92%. Before long, I hit 96% a lot. And then shortly after that, I got my first 100 straight. So it worked. Why does it work and why is it so difficult? And is that a real thing or is that just shooters with bad information?
So that's actually just scratching the surface there. So in order for us to have depth perception, we need the sweet spot of both eyes pointing at the same place for long enough that the visual centers of our brain and the back of our brain that we're not born with, that come with life experiences, turn on and allow us to see in depth or in 3D. And in order to see in 3D, you need central and peripheral processing to be flowing at the same time. If you're blocking out central with one eye, with that little piece of tape, you're getting some binocularity, you're getting some eye teaming from your periphery, your side vision, but you're actually not getting depth with your central vision. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, even just talking with you here, Vinnie. I can tell that sometimes your eyes don't always work together and that your right eye sometimes drifts out a little. So I would guess that reading is probably not your favorite thing to do, and it may even help you fall asleep at night because it can be taxing or fatiguing. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I do like to read, though.
Okay.
My mom was a librarian, and
good. Well, I think normal human nature is we avoid stuff that's hard for us. I would say reading's a little harder for you than it should be without even doing testing, just by observing this. I mean, with athletes, I train athletes to optimize critical components of their visual system, which can allow for more consistency and improved performance. And with a really thorough evaluation, we can identify overlooked areas of opportunity within the visual system to ensure that you're performing at your potential. You're told at an early age, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eyes on the skeet, but no one's really taught how. We can teach you how with office-based training. But I will say there are certain, and there's a movie, I think it was SWAT, where, I'm not sure if I'm sharing the right one, but this is a sniper who, even though he's picking off people or objects, hundreds of meters away, he's got both eyes open because that allows his brain to access depth, which really gives him a better sense of where something's located. So if you were to go through a little bit of a training program, you could get to skeet shooting with both eyes open without the tape and have even improved consistency and performance, because you would much better be able to localize not just where the skeet is, but where it's going to be. And that's the key, is the anticipation of movement based off of high level depth and really fluid visual processing.
All right, hang on. All right, so now you're talking my game.
Okay.
Because look, I do archery.
Yep.
And I do right here in my office, I have a 10 millimeter indoor air rifle range, right? Cool. Where I'm putting holes inside of holes, and it's through peep apertures.
Yeah.
Right. So you're looking through something the size of a pinhole at another dot over here, and you're connecting to a dot 10 meters away. And my eyes, not even using the reader part, but using just the regular part of my glass, I can focus on that. And it's always interesting to me because with a handgun now, I can't look at the crosshairs and the target at the same time with the gun out here, yet with the peep aperture up to my eye. And the same happens with archery, because with archery, no glasses, when you turn to the side, it does something to let both of my eyes, even though I'm looking through my right eye, when it's cocked sideways, it allows it to happen, and you're able to make the shot. Right. So I'm not just a shotgun guy. I do it all.
And by blocking out periphery, to helps you localize centrally, and you're more locked in. But really the key to alignment in any position is having periphery open and accessible, because that allows these laser beams representing the line of sight to be that much more dialed in. One of the really fun things I do, I work with a bunch of professional sports teams to help them decide who to draft or take as a free agent based off of visual skills and abilities, where they're functioning, where they could be. And then the guys with the big gap, they send to us, we work with them, and then you get that much more return on the investment, because they already have gotten so far by compensating, working harder than they need to. Right. And I think with this unstable eye coordination system between the inside and outside muscles of the eyes, it means that with your head in different positions, you're adding a vertical component, diagonal component. You're having to really adjust how you're taking in space. And with the right feedback, you can optimize performance dramatically there and learn how to take details at different planes and superimpose them on each other with stability.
All right. So right now I'm taking the pen.
Yep.
And so I'm making this pen, the front of my shotgun. You don't aim shotguns, you point, right? Because there's no crosshair in the back. There's only the thing on the end. And I never see the thing on the end. I don't pay attention to it.
You ignore it because you gaze beyond it, right?
I'm using a poster beyond my pen. I'm like, if I look at the pen, if I focus on the pen, I can see the pen there's only one pen. Okay. When I'm focusing on the poster, the Fatta documentary poster right behind it, I'm looking at the letter F, and I'm seeing two pens.
Yeah. So that's what happens in all of life. If you were to go like this with two fingers, even one in front of each other, whatever finger you look at, you're seeing one of, but you're actually seeing two of everything else. Because if you think of the eyes like a laser beam, we actually see double of everything in life that our eyes are not pointing at. Our brain just learns to ignore it.
Like I cannot tell you which. All right, so I'm focusing on the barrel, the end of the barrel. I'm seeing one. Now I'm looking at the target, the F on the poster. I cannot tell you which one of these pens. One is not half faded out. You understand? They're both perfect in my eyes, and they're about that far apart.
That's what they're supposed to be, though. That's called physiological diplopia.
All right, so how am I supposed to hit a clay flying at 60 miles an hour if I'm looking at two barrels?
You can learn how to take in many dimensions of visual space simultaneously and very quickly and accurately change your gaze, but take in more with less eye movements. This is what we do with high-level athletes. You can learn how to react and process visual information so much more efficiently and fluently than anyone currently is operating. For you, you've learned how to compensate. You've learned how to ignore those two barrels, those two dissimilar objects, because your focus is out in the distance. So imagine then having a long string from your nose to where the target is. And we've got 20 beads on the string, and we're calling out the color, and you're snapping your eyes to wherever the bead is, watching those two beads snap together into one, and being aware of all other aspects of the string and the other beads. We can raise to your awareness how you're taking in space to learn how to self-correct and self-monitor more easily.
Okay, I'm on the gun barrel again. Now I'm on the target. I'm seeing 2. And you see, whenever I do this, now right there is, now I'm looking at 1, but both of my eyes are still open.
But by blocking off central vision, your left eye, one of those goes away.
And only the real one remains. So how do I do it without blocking off? How do I do it without having the patch on my glasses?
You need vision performance training. You need to go to the gym for your eyes to learn how to.
Okay, coach, how do we do it? I would love to get better.
So, I mean, just like getting in better shape, you get in better shape faster, go into a gym, work with somebody who knows what they're doing with all the equipment. So we do these boot camps in my office. We're in Maryland, right outside DC. Usually takes about a week or so to see like massive changes. And then we put you on a home program that's got a customized virtual reality program where we're adjusting the settings on the back end. We're giving you lots of different exercises and things to work on. That's how you get there, because this is respectfully kind of a big deal in terms of how much we need to, how many gaps we need to close in terms of just visual skills and abilities and how your brain's using the information your eyes are sending it. We also have an online vision training program called ScreenFit, which is kind of like the equivalent of doing body weight work instead of going to the gym. So ScreenFit is 30 different lessons. Each lesson has a video of me describing what to do. It talks you through it. You don't need any equipment. I would imagine if you went through each lesson of ScreenFit, you would see improvement, but we would need probably more than that to really get you to lock in with accuracy, especially if you're shooting multiple times throughout the day, or if you're doing this at the end of the day after a bunch of podcasts, your eye-brain connection is going to be fatigued.
Right.
But at any state of function, we can develop a more stable, dominant visual system that can give you an advantage over competition, but even just, you know, in the task that you're attempting.
If I came to you, we're not that far apart.
Where are you?
I'm in Charlottesville. I'm probably 2 hours away from you.
Yeah.
If I came to you, it would be every day for a week.
So it would be 12 hours of work within 5 to 6 days, depending on how aggressive you want to be. First day, we would do a really thorough 2-hour evaluation, looking at every different visual skill. And that's really just getting data to know the starting points. End of the week, we do a follow-up evaluation to highlight the wins, but we would do about 12 hours of work during the week where we would know your first session, what we'd be doing, but then what we do beyond that would be dictated based off of your responses and how much you let us push you. We'd be incorporating movement, balance, vestibular input, cognition, really a cross-training kind of holistic approach, but it would all be targeted on locking in to that central plane. And, you know, we've worked with literally the highest level of athlete in every sport imaginable. We arrange the conditions based off of the sport, based off of what we need to raise to your awareness. And then, you know, we wouldn't have you shooting throughout the week, but I can guarantee we'd see progress. And depending on where things lie, we'd have to lift up the hood to see where the systems are, but I can guarantee that you'd improve accuracy and at least performance over time.
And what is something like in-house coming to your office? What does something like that cost the average person?
Everything we do is totally customized. So it kind of depends on what it is we're working on. We do a program model. So we kind of set up what we need on top of the training. We incorporate supplements, certain types of therapy like red light therapy or optometric phototherapy, which is light therapy, depending on inflammation, other things there. There are really low investment, low ticket offers, and then there's massive ones. A lot of the a lot of the high profile health influencers we work with do our VIP program, which is a heavy lift. It's a high investment, but depending on what it is your goals are, you achieve outcomes based off of the hard work. And that's in the thousands range. We could figure out exactly what it would be based off of kind of the Build-A-Bear model. But what you're paying for is really the investment in your visual system, and not just for shooting, but the eye-brain connection, and really not allowing this spiraling out of control that often happens as we age with visual function.
Well, but you see, a guy like me, and look, I know parents have kids in school and the whole thing. We're empty nesters. We've invested well.
Yeah.
I would look at it and go, well, wait a minute. I'm planning on shooting for the rest of my life, because there's going to be a time when you can't do anything else, right? You just get old. And I've considered going back to golf. And again, eye-hand coordination, you need it for golf. I'm not going back to golf tomorrow, but I can see myself, I'm going to be one of those old Italians playing bocce ball at the end, rolling the bocce ball, because I love games. I love competition. I love being outdoors. And the things that are going to go wrong is vision and hearing, right? Yeah. And so you got to go, well, you want quality of life, and you're saying, hey, there's something you could do about it now. It may be worth the thousands.
I wouldn't say
tens of thousands. If it's a couple of thousand, you're like, well, if it works, right?
Yeah, well, so the way we work, it's not if it works, because we only work with people we know we can help. It's how much does it work based off of how much do we do. And I don't ever want fear to dictate a decision, but many falls that happen as we age are avoidable. And when our visual midline and our body midline aren't coincident with each other, balance gets thrown off. So we do a really thorough evaluation. We have a symptom checklist and kind of like a quiz where we can predict exactly how much you need and what the path looks like. And I can send you a bunch of stuff off air. We do a virtual consult and just see, what's involved here. I can give you a direct number of here's what's going to cost. Here's the timeline. We've got to deal with the 2 Marriott hotels by us where they give 20% off for our patients because we see so many from out of state, out of country. But it's a lot of work, and it's like a boot camp for your eyes, just like you can do a boot camp for your mind, for your body, for certain aspects of health. But I would say the expectation is that it is honestly life-changing if, in fact, performance and staying active and having that eye-brain connection be functioning at its potential, if that's important to you, then money is just the barrier to get there, because unfortunately there's just a lot of tech and staff members I got to pay to make it work, but we make it as doable as possible. Yeah.
But look, right now I don't have the time, but eventually this is something. Look, I just went to Alexandria every day for, I had to go 5 days in a row, and then had to go 5 days in a row to get the Dupuytren contracture in my hands. I got, the radiation done, and there's 2 doctors on this side of the world that did it, this side of the country. One was in Alexandria, and he was one of the guys that pioneered it. So, might as well go to the Pioneer.
We're 30 minutes without traffic from Alexandria.
Yeah. So if I was willing to do that, drive up there every day, twice, that you had to go 5 days in a row, wait 12 weeks, and do another 5 days. And I'm happy I did it now. I mean, my hands are wide open again, not quite there yet. You can still see the Dupuytrens in parts of my hands, but it's going away. It really worked. And at one point, I wasted my money. I wasted my time. But they told me it's going to keep getting better and better. I don't have pain in my hands anymore.
And unfortunately, these days, for longevity, for anti-aging, for just wellness, insurance doesn't cover a lot of this stuff because it's a reactive model, and you're paying for the care that usually is the care that moves the needle. We got to change that model, but that's where it is, unfortunately.
It's crazy what insurance does pay for and what it won't, right? You want to get, an Ozempic shot, or go get it, right? Insurance is more than happy, I think. Or is it on insurance or off of insurance?
I believe it's off insurance.
Yeah. Okay. So that one's still off, but guess what they're trying to push for? They're trying to push to get it on.
I'm sure. I mean, think about how much wasted money there is on people with headaches. And so they go see every doctor under the sun. They get MRIs, they get CAT scans, everything's fine. And again, like we've talked about a few times, you're not hitting the root cause of what's causing the headaches, right? I mean, we're in a tough place as a country here.
Yeah, it's really kind of crazy. And, we have to get some of it straight. It's something I'm going to consider. But you also, I heard you mention in passing that people can go online. What's the online course like?
So that's screenfit.com. And there's a free week-long taster course to, get your feet wet, see what's involved. We've had as young as 5 and as old as 89 go through it successfully. And we, knock on wood, have had 100% of people go through it, see a reduction in symptoms. And we've had very high volume. We've got Marriott offering it to its employees, a bunch of other companies for kind of corporate wellness, but it's a way to just reduce visual symptoms, teach specific visual skills for screen engagement, and to get the ball rolling in the right direction so that what we're doing right now and the specific visual skills needed for screen engagement is at least easier. And in some cases, this can buy you years, if not more, of time with kind of optimal eye-brain connections.
Look, I'm all for it, folks. Go check this out. Give it to them one more time. Right here. There.
Screenfit.com. SCREENFIT.
I would do an offer, but I haven't tried it, folks, so I can't do it yet. But what I'm thinking about doing is I've enjoyed this conversation with Bryce so much that I may try it, or maybe Serena might try it. And if we do, and we see benefit, then maybe we'll bring Bryce back on and Bryce, is there any world where we could give a discount to not right now, but once we try it?
That's what we do for most of the people we work with who have the opportunity to get this stuff out there. Okay. Vinnie, this isn't if this helps you. This is if you go through it and are motivated, it will help you. And I can confidently say that. It's just a matter of how much.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get either me or Serena, because Serena's always interested in eye health. I mean, my wife started wearing Coke bottle glasses when she was a baby.
Yeah.
Right. So she's been, so if it can do anything for Serena Scott Thomas, folks, then I will bring Bryce back on, and we're going to make her the guinea pig. Let's bring Bryce back on, and I'll add a promo code to it and give it to you guys. But I won't do that. I never do anything until I try it. So we got to try it first and do that.
We can create an offer here that makes it irresistible for your audience as well.
Well, we'll figure it out. Bryce, hang on, because we have to wait till this uploads. And folks, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire. It gets my train down the track. We're able to keep this show free for a gazillion years in a row. Rate and review this podcast. Go check out Dr. Bryce Appelbaum. I'm going to spell Appelbaum for you. It's Appelbaum. Did I do that correctly?
You got it. My ancestors made it tough for us, but you got it.
Your ancestors. My name is Tortorich. We tried to shorten it so it didn't sound like an Italian dish. At any rate, folks, go check out everything Dr. Appelbaum is doing. On behalf of Bryce, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living, and let's do it with just a little bit more of the who, because I like these guys.